Last Friday, U.S. President Obama held the brakes on the war against Syria and said that he wanted to gain approval from Congress before going to war in Syria. Now, notice the big change here. He previously said, and has continued to say since then, that he will go to war regardless. So what's the point here? What's the point of asking for approval from Congress? The point, I believe, is simple. Obama is asking for approval from Congress in order to give himself a better image. Why is that? Well, look at the past. You know, the whole thing where the president has to actually get approval from Congress in order to go to war. It's not something he would like. It's something legally he has to get. Remember, that was one of the big things about some of the wars carried out by the Bush administration. They needed to have approval from Congress in order to carry them out. If not, the war is illegal. Unless, of course, you actually ignore international law. But at least on a domestic level, it needs to have approval from Congress. Now, Obama knows that, just as Congress knows that. He's trying to get the approval to give some kind of legitimacy towards what he's doing. He's already made it clear that he's going to do it anyway. So trying to give himself a nice, clear veneer on this to make it look official, and that he's not really being a dictatorial monster that is threatening to destroy the country of Syria and killing possibly tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, somewhat akin to what happened in Libya. But as we know, the imperialist war machine isn't actually going to just stop because somebody requested a vote. Imperialism is the very essence of going against democracy. It isn't going to wait for a vote, nor does it actually care for it. The beast of imperialism doesn't need the permission of the people to carry out such destructive means. It is the very essence of what is against the people. Imperialism is the international manifestation of capital's will. Capital is against the very interests and desires of the people, both for freedom and for democracy. So it should not be looked at as any kind of strange thing that Obama would not seek congressional approval. It is beyond the will of the people with the mechanisms given to us by the bourgeois. The bourgeois want this. This is what's needed to sustain and maintain their power. So why would they ask our permission? Capital isn't subject to a popular vote. We don't vote on where these dollars go. We don't vote on what the market decides to do. Of course, we have that whole theoretical thing where we can vote with our dollars, where we can choose. But when our combined wealth is, well, absolutely nothing in the face of the people who own tens of billions, hundreds of billions, possibly in some ways trillions of dollars, our vote means nothing. In fact, an article in the past has said that the amount of money put into derivatives globally is about $1.5 quadrillion. I don't know about you, but as a guy on minimum wage, I don't think I have anywhere near the power, even combined with the rest of the working class world. Hell, even take the money of the bourgeois, the Rothschild family, take all of them together, and it still doesn't even come close to the $1.5 quadrillion that runs this system. We must accept this truth. Capital is not subject to a popular vote. Capital isn't subject to popular opinion. Capital has no master. Capital is the master. We hear this all the time. The magic of the marketplace, the invisible hand of the market, the so-called animal spirits. Capitalism itself, its mechanism, its power, is all anti-democratic. It is not for freedom. It is for its own power. It is not a democratic force, and we don't vote with our dollars. It is an anti-democratic force, and it cannot be reined in and brought under control. There is no idea of, as long as we get rid of the hindrance to getting into the market, or if just unions ran everything and all workplaces were democratized, and all of a sudden the market and capitalism would begin to work. No, because that is not how capital works. These are forces. The manyness that Karl Marx spoke of goes beyond these supposed democratic institutions put forward by various far leftists. Capital is inherently an anti-democratic beast. That same beast of imperialism. There is no doubt in my mind that this war in Syria is going to happen one way or another. Sure, Barack Obama is going to make it look like he has consensus to go and do it. Sure, they might even go so far as to fake evidence that chemical weapons were actually used by the Assad government, when very clearly, given the statements already made by the UN, they have not. It is now a known fact that the Syrian rebels are the ones who have actually used chemical weapons. And now it's highly suspected that those chemical weapons came from Saudi Arabia, a very strong U.S. ally. It has now been shown that U.S. reports that say they know the Bashar al-Assad government used chemical weapons, their entire source was 100 YouTube videos. Really. Just a couple of videos on YouTube are proof that the Syrian government actually used chemical weapons. If we followed this same train of logic, we could conclude that the Jews did absolutely everything because there's some loony who's made a video on it on YouTube. This shows the striking desperation that this government has to get this war underway all for the benefit of capital. And even as we speak, many Americans have raised their heads and said that they don't agree with this war. They're not falling for it. They don't want to go through this again. This is the same lies that were fed before. There's weapons of mass destruction. Absolutely no evidence whatsoever was produced of there being weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. And yet it was still managed to convince everybody that they were, and that the war was justified. This is literally the same thing over again. There's been no evidence of the use of chemical weapons by the Bashar al-Assad government. And yet, it has still managed to convince a good number of people in the American public that it has happened, and that we must now invade. It's the same lie that we've been fed already, and the public is falling for it once again. There are many people who are opposed to this war, and they are publicly standing up and saying that they're not going to go along with it. They're not falling for this again. Unfortunately, those numbers are too small, and they can't have a real impact, because the majority of the American public either doesn't care or is still going along with the lies. It never ceases to amaze me how the public can constantly say the government lies to us, the government is screwing us, they're hurting us with taxes, they're out to destroy us, and even go so far as to think that they've created a conspiracy to throw Christians in concentration camps because Obama is the devil. You know, whole FEMA camp thing, and that the NWO is going to exterminate half the population for some reason. But somehow it's telling the truth about Syria. It never ceases to amaze me that how much people will call the government a liar, and that it doesn't tell the truth, and that it's against our interests. Somehow, when it tells us that we have to go to war, all of a sudden it's telling the truth, and it's believable. I just don't get it. And the American public, the majority, once again, are going right along with it. The same garbage that was fed to us about Libya and why we should tomahawk missile the hell out of them and support these mercenaries, militias, and frankly Al-Qaeda members to overthrow the government there, we are now expected to do again with Syria. I've never had so little faith in the public than right now with us literally being told the same lie again, and still people believe it. It is wrong to hate the people, and Mao made that very clear. You can't blame the people for that. But I do admit it's very frustrating that the same lies are produced over and over again, and yet still the same people believe them over and over again. So, regardless, this war is going to happen again. There is going to be an invasion of Syria. There's going to be Tomahawk missiles thrown at Syria to overthrow the government. No matter what, it's going to happen. But may I ask that the U.S. public, could you please do something about this time? Can you actually accomplish something? Can you step forward and put an end to it? Can you at least try a vote? Can you do something to try to stop this from happening again? This is one of those reasons why the world hates the United States. Never mind all the claims about being supposedly jealous for everything that they have or everything they accomplish, the American exceptionalism. This is why the world hates you. And this is why the world should hate you. It is right to hate America. That great Hate America beat. Because it deserves it. And when things like this happen, they are very clear indications to the people in the third world, even the developing world, that the people here can't help them, or won't help them. And by won't, I mean won't do what's actually necessary to help them. This is what a lot of third worldist theory is based on. The inaction of the proletarian class, or the, to them, non-existent proletarian class, not helping in these situations and allowing them to continue, because in the end it'll end up benefiting them to some degree. The people of the first world, particularly those in the United States, most importantly those in the United States, have to step up and do something. They have to finally put an end to these imperialist wars. They have to stop their own government from doing it. And thus far, they've done nothing successful. I know a lot of people have begun protesting, even before the wars even started, but it's not enough. The people of the United States have to actually find something that will stop it this time. Because the world can't wait. People who are being brutalized by the imperialist system can't wait for that. People who are starving, people who are being killed by the U.S. military at this moment, can't wait for that. People who die because of sanctions can't wait for that. People who are brutalized, murdered, and raped by militias and armed groups that are funded by the U.S. taxpayer can't wait for that. People of America, you have to do something. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, share on various social media, and if you want, there's some other good videos here you can check out.